Hey, welcome back to Night Owl Mogwai Talk, keeping you up, probably past midnight, so please don't feed me. Unless it's more episodes of Gremlins, Secrets of the Mogwai. How you like that? That's a transition, or segue, you know what I mean? I'm getting real professional over here, your boy's making moves. Anyways, episode 3, without further ado, because I've already wasted enough of your time. Let's get started. Episode 3 pretty much begins where episode 2 ends off. Riley Green and his henchmen have stumbled upon the 24-hour dumpling shop where the Gremlins have eaten past midnight. So they're in there trying to corral these green monsters to have them be part of their army to take over the world. You know, as one does. And the next thing you know, Stoogey McSpyface comes running in and snitches off a bunch of exposition. And he's like, oh, Elle and Gizmo and Sam are on top of a train and they're off to the Ghost City to go to the Jade Valley to return Gizmo to his home. And Riley Green's like, fool, I don't care. I already got an army of gremlins. What do I need that little furry wussy one for? And I don't care about that girl. I'll catch up with her some other day to have her pay me back. And then he gives an evil laugh and we go into the opening intro. Previously, I had said that the intro wasn't all that memorable. It's not. It's just that they push into the old curio shop where Wing lives. But I take that back on this episode because I noticed it's about 15 seconds of synthesized, remixed traditional Gremlins theme. So a good ringtone and or text alert, you know, always thinking. All right, the show starts. We're on the train where Elle and Sam are. And Sam, looking out the train window, says, isn't that a beautiful view? And Elle says, yeah, if you're into rocks. And Sam says, boy, am I. Geology's like a good novel that never ends. So A, you know, Team Sam, and B, pass that joint. And then at that point, the ticket taker for the train pops up.
Tickets, please.
Realizing they don't have any money for tickets, Elle does what she does and pickpockets everybody on the train. And then some creepy dude who's supposed to stay like 500 feet away from schools kind of spies what she's doing as she pays for a first-class ticket. So Sam gets mad at Elle for still being a criminal because he thought she'd changed into a good guy now that she went off on this adventure with him, but no dice, she's still evil. So Sam goes off and tries to earn some money by shining shoes and offering to give haircuts and nose hair trimmings. While he's out doing that, Gizmo and Elle take a nap. Gizmo notices some weird nightmare monster stalking him in his sleep. And when he tries to tell Elle, she blows him off like it was just a nightmare. So Gizmo's already starting to get annoyed with her. So while Sam's out trying to make a quick buck giving shoe shines, he runs into the man with the Children of the Corn hat. Dude's like, yeah, I'll take a shoe shine. And by the way, I'm a train cop. I saw you guys stealing. So Sam immediately freaks out and gets scared. And he's like, look, I know it wasn't you, kid. It's your friend who you're with. She looks like a real pro. You're clearly an amateur at this. And I also saw you had some sort of exotic pet with you. So I don't know why you would let someone who's clearly a criminal babysit your exotic pet. And Sam's like, you know what? You're right. And he quick goes running back to the bedroom where Elle and Gizmo were sleeping and they're gone. So then we see Elle and Gizmo going through a walk through some sort of storage area. So then Sam, with suspicion in his eyes, kind of sees her walking around with his Mogwai and he's like, hey, where are you going with that thing? And she's like, well, we're sort of scared. There's a monster back there. And he's like, oh, you weren't trying to run off with this, were you? She's like, no. And he's like, well, why don't you let me hold it? And that's when Gizmo looks down and notices goat feet. I was like, oh yeah, now we're talking. By God, business just picked up. So Elle immediately points the business end of an umbrella at Sam, and he's like, what's your problem? But then Sam explains, no, it's me. You know, she's like, how did we meet? And he explains at the circus. So she knows it's him. It's all good. So she agrees to give the Mogwai over, even though 2 seconds ago she was just afraid of him. But she agrees to give the Mogwai back over to him, and then Sam immediately hands the Gizmo over to the train cop. And the train cop's like, thank you. And we get our monster of the week. He immediately shoots a bunch of sharp spikes out of his back and pins Sam and Elle up against the wall. And he explains he's been waiting all this time trapped on this train as a monster, and now he's finally going to get his chance to do what he's always wanted to do. Eat a Mogwai. After some dramatic music that plays us into a commercial, we cut back to Riley Green at his place. And he's got all the evil Mogwais corralled, and he's got his henchmen around. And he explains that in the books he's read, he's learned that if you eat a Mogwai, you become immortal. So this is the first time we've had some sort of new storytelling introduced. There's some stuff in the other episodes where they explain that eating after midnight just makes the Mogwai stronger, not more evil or anything. It's just bigger and more powerful. So in this one, we're establishing that if you eat a Mogwai, you get to live forever. So apparently Mogwai are like the old meme that was going around about lobsters, where if nothing murders them or they don't have some accident happen, that they'll just live forever. So that's not true anyways. But they will live for a long time. They're like turtles or something. So that's how this Mogwai deal is. They live forever if nothing kills them. So if you eat a Mogwai, you become immortal. So then Riley Green uses his magic to bring out one of the Mogwai, and he's going to swallow it whole as he does. And then we cut back to this monster known as Odd Odd. He's some sort of actor who's also been cursed, so now he's a shapeshifter. So he thinks the best way to break this curse is to become immortal by eating the Mogwai. But he explains that it has to be a Mogwai that hasn't eaten before midnight. It has to be in its furry state. So then at that point, we immediately cut back to Riley Green after swallowing the Mogwai, and he starts to get violently ill. And at this point, I'm kind of like wowed a bit, because this, as far as storytelling goes, is rather awesome. This is the thing where the bad guys love to just explain how smart they are to the good guy, like, I've finally captured you and I've got you tied to a chair and now I'm going to explain to you my plan. So this is two bad guys explaining their evil philosophy and what they're going to do. In this, they use a really cool storytelling device where the two villains are both kind of going on and on about their brilliant plans, and we cut back and forth to like aid and undercut what is being said in each version of the story. And I was trying to think if I'd ever seen that before in like film or television. It's a really smart way to tell exposition of like, we got to move this story along, but so we'll have both bad guys give their own little individual speeches that cross-cut. And then I thought of, it's like, you know what it reminds me of is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, when they're going to get the goblet or the Holy Grail out of the end, and they have to go through the 3 challenges of the Knights Templar or whatever the hell it is. So they cut to Harrison Ford doing the tasks, but then they also cut back to Sean Connery like saying, oh, but Jehovah's spelled with an I or whatever. And so that's cool that they, kind of repurposed that trick of storytelling from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, right? So Riley Green goes ahead and vomits out this gremlin, and he's a steaming pile of gremlin goo. And then as we cut back to Odd Odd explaining how he's, finally going to be free from this prison he's been in, and how he was trapped in this curse, and, just bad guy exposition. Gizmo figures out a way to escape through an air vent. So then Odd Odd goes chasing after him, and they have to go up on top of the train. And you're damn right they have to go up on top of the train. As soon as I saw this old school train, I was like, if we're not on top of that train having some sort of duel or fist fight, if somebody doesn't fall off the side of the train and dangle, maybe while the train's even going over like a long bridge or whatever, you know how train fights happen. So as soon as I saw this episode, I was like, we better be getting a fight on top of this train. And here we are. So it's giving me what I want. I'm happy about that. Good job, Gremlins. So then we cut to Sam, and we see him with one of the family's magical books, and he explains how there's a potion in there that'll get rid of any shape-shifting curse. So this is kind of interesting that Sam is like the magical science guy to solve problems. He's got like the ultimate little book of spells to get them out of whatever dangers they have. It's a good writing device to get them out of any scary problem they need. Sam's technically a wizard. So then we see Elle doing her pickpocket bit where she can steal anything and gathers up all the ingredients that Sam will need to make his magic elixir to turn Odd Odd back into a person. Transcribe that sentence. Sheesh. So then we cut back to outside where Odd Odd and Gizmo are having it out. Gizmo can't be out in the hot sun, so he's underneath sort of a vent cover, and he's got this like 1960s space age stewardess outfit on where he's running around, and Odd Odd's up there basically playing whack-a-mole, trying to figure out which one is him and which one is a regular vent. So, Gizmo looks like a gopher or a mole, so that makes sense. It's a funny bit of business, I guess. Sure. And then Sam and Elle get up there, and we get the classic people dueling on top of a train. I told you this is what I wanted. And what happens next? Sam and the elixir get knocked off onto the side of the train, and Sam almost dies because he's hanging off the side of a train going over a bridge. Thank you. So hard to please me? No. Unfortunately, Sam loses the elixir because we have to have the all is lost moment. But as Sam is pulling himself back up to safety on top of the train, Elle realizes from the shadow that Odd Odd is actually a little person pretending to be a big person because he's an actor, a shapeshifter or whatever. So, good little metaphor for children about like how bullies are actually small people and the little bit of storytelling they do in this, or the message telling they do in this show, is pretty good writing. It's not heavy-handed, it's subtle. So then Elle just straight up goes and punches the bully in the nose, or beats him over the head with a parasol, as the case may be. And just like a video game boss, one hit he gets smaller, second hit he gets even smaller, third hit he gets even smaller. And then Gizmo goes over and gives him a good whack because he was going to try to eat him. So then we cut to Riley Green loading up his big evil yacht. Of course, always on the pollutant tip. That's what I like about him. I mentioned this before. He's doing many evil deeds at once. And we see he's bringing Mama and Papa Wing along. He's got them in his little magical prison he keeps them in. And he explains to them that we're going to have to go get Sam because if I'm going to be immortal, I need a gremlin that hasn't eaten before midnight, a pre-pubescent Mogwai, whatever the hell you want to call it. So she immediately says,
he's got a 2-day head start on you, which is more than he needs.
He speaks a dozen languages, knows every local custom. He'll blend in, disappear. You'll never see him again.
Right? I mean, I appreciate homage, and they're being subtle about it, but at that point I was like, I got your nose. So then we cut back to the train, and we see Sam and Elle having a conversation, and he explains to her, look, I'm sorry I doubted you. You know, you've been on my side from the beginning, and I know you do what you do that I don't agree with, but you've never done me wrong, and it was wrong of me to think that you would have stolen Gizmo, so I apologize. And she kind of looks at him and she's like really appreciates that this dude, you know, is seeing her for her, and it's kind of a nice tender moment where they do the cartoon big eye, glassy eye thing. And he says, you know what, if you want to hold Gizmo, you hold Gizmo, and hands her back to her. And she reaches down and pulls out the pin in between the two train cars and ditches him. And it ends on like that classic betrayal moment for this episode. So good writing. I explained in one of the early episodes you could tell Elle was going to always straddle that line of being evil because that's a good catalyst for the show. You know, if the show gets boring, we can always turn to Elle up to some shenanigans to get us into trouble. So, and this also is the first like baddie of the week. I was under the impression that that's what type of show this is, like real Ghostbusters or Scooby-Doo or something, where just each week we're going to get some sort of new monster and adventure, but then there's also the underlying adventure. I have to admit, when Thursday rolled around, I was mildly shocked that I was like, ooh, new Gremlins are going to be out. This isn't a show that made me seem like I'd be anxious to find out what's going to happen, but it's cute and it's fun. It reminds me of the animation and the comedy both remind me of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I would give this episode an enjoyable. I liked it. I thought Odd was a good villain of the week. The whole stuff where eating a gremlin turns you into an immortal is a bit sketchy. I'm hoping that turns out to be like just a wives' tale that somebody just proves, like the Joe Rogan of their world will pop up and be like, that's not true. Anyway, so thank you for watching. I appreciate it. You go ahead and let's see. If you want to watch the episode before this one, watch there. And then if you want the episode after this one, watch there. Huh? Look at me using all the tools. Anyways, I am a tool. Thanks for watching. Bye. Catch you later.